So let's talk about Harrison Barnes and Sacktown. I'll spend 2 seconds for why Dallas did this. They wanted off of his money. There you go. We all knew that one. Now, his fit with the Kings, I think, is pretty interesting, because part of me thinks it could go really well, and another part of me thinks the idea of this is actually better than what the reality is going to be. And it all depends on what is Harrison Barnes' mindset. Is he going to come to Sacramento with his Warriors style of play or his Mavericks style of play? Because if he steps in like this is the Mavericks and he wants to shoot 15 times a game and get his ISOs and his like mid-range post-ups and all that, then I think we're going to have a problem, because De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield need to be the leading shot takers on this team. I mean, we saw in Dallas, sure, if you give Barnes that workload, he can get to 17 or 18 points a game, but he's not going to make plays for teammates. His three-pointer, to be fair, did step up this season, but I think a lot of that was from Luka just generating him open looks. So he just kind of caps out at like that, high teens kind of dude who's not good enough to lead your offense. So, of course, you don't want him to lead your offense, but my fear is Harrison Barnes may think that he should still be leading this offense. And, that could be a bit of a fear. I mean, what if too many possessions are being taken away from De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, right? Now, on the flip side, it could go really well if Barnes is like, okay, I get it. My time in Dallas, I was shooting a lot. I'm going to come here. I'm going to play off the ball a little bit more. I'm going to let De'Aaron run his pick and rolls. I'm going to let Buddy Hield do his stuff off the ball, and I'm just going to play off of all of that. Then we're probably fine, because at that point, he's shooting, maybe 10 times a game, shooting some threes, standing in the corner, running in transition, cutting to the basket, maybe a little more aggressive on the offensive boards, perhaps. I mean, he did grab 1.5 of those a game in 2015 for Golden State. So if he's going to do that, then I think this is a pretty damn good move, because the Kings got themselves a big wing who can just fit in with what they got going on. But again, I am afraid that he's not going to make the adjustment of, I'm supposed to shoot less and I'm not as a part of the offense as I was before. So how is that going to play out? I don't really know, because the thing is, when Harrison Barnes was in Golden State, he was totally fine with playing off of everything. And in Dallas, yeah, he shot a lot, but a reason he did that is because they kind of needed him to. Now, was he sometimes a black hole on offense where he didn't pass the ball? Yeah, and that gives me a little bit of fear, but it's clear that Rick Carlisle said to him, hey, we don't have anybody who can score other than this season when Luka showed up, so you're getting the ball, so go nuts with all the shots you want to take. So I'm not penciling in Barnes to be a ball hog who lacks self-awareness. I do think there's a chance that he will understand what his role for this team should be, but I'm not all the way there. I've got to see it first, and I am a little skeptical. Now I want to get to the positions, specifically the 3 and the 4. The Kings have 3 dudes who are going to be taking up those 2 spots a lot of the time. Barnes, Bjelica, and then Bogdan. And all 3 of those guys, Bjelica and Bogdan, have been great for Sacramento this year. I mean, Bjelica's spacing has been amazing, even if he only puts up about 9 points a game or whatever it is. And he's just given Hield and De'Aaron Fox all the runways to attack the rim, and then the team plays off of that, right? And I'm assuming that Harrison Barnes is going to start at the 3, and I do think those 2, it gives them a decent amount of size. Bjelica, I wouldn't consider him to be a plus defender, but I guess he can survive out there, and Harrison Barnes, if he doesn't devote as much energy to offense, I think he could be a very good defender for the Kings, so that could boost them there. And then you pair that with De'Aaron Fox, and you might have something brewing defensively at that point. And then I think offensively, the spacing with those 2 can be pretty good as long as Barnes is willing to not mess it up with ISOs and all that. If I can just keep mentioning that, I guess. Now, if we talk about Bogdanović, so De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and Bogdanović together has gone really well for Sacramento this year. Granted, their net rating is only plus 2.5, but given that this team is right in the thick of the 8th seed and was horrible last season, I think that's a pretty damn good accomplishment for those three to be as effective as they are. And it makes sense as to why, right? I mean, Hield and Bogdanovic are both really good shooters, and all three of those guys can make plays off the dribble. And if you get all three of those dudes moving, and with how much transition offense Sacramento uses, it's just really tough to deal with all three of those dudes moving at the same time. And the idea is, can Harrison Barnes play the power forward position with those three guys? I would like to think he can. And I would also like to think that those three could generate a lot of open looks for Barnes. And what could get really interesting is, what are they going to do with that center position? I don't think Bjelica can really play the 5, but between Bagley, who is, of course, the long-term option, Harry Giles, who is coming alive a bit lately, they traded Scal, and then Willie Cauley-Stein for at least this season. Who knows if he's a king after this year? That could give you a nice balance of athleticism and, especially in the case of Stein, like some physicality, because I do think he's kind of beefed up over his years in the league, and Barnes is, of course, one of the stronger wings in the league. So that all makes sense. I guess the fear that I could have outside of what I keep mentioning with the shots is if Barnes would maybe take away too many minutes from Bogdanovic and Bjelica, because I think all three of those guys, well, between Barnes and Bjelica, I should say, both of those guys can play the 3 and the 4, and I would expect both of those guys to be playing with and without each other, and I just wonder if to accommodate Barnes, you have to shave off too many minutes from, like, either one of those two. Now, I know they got rid of Shumpert, so that's kind of their way of addressing that, I think, but you assume Barnes is going to be playing more than Shumpert. He's going to be a part of the offense more than Shumpert was, and I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it's like the last 7 or 8 games of the season where the Kings are really going for it, see if they can make the playoffs, and Bjelica's playing like 21 minutes a night, and Harrison Barnes is up to like 35 because they're just like, we got to win these games, and this is what we're going with, even if that may not necessarily be the right choice. Now, the flip side of that is maybe it is the right choice. I mean, maybe Harrison Barnes steps in and he's just amazing for this team. So, yeah, I think where I end up is I am skeptical, but I feel pretty good because the fit does make sense. It's just a matter of, number one, hopefully re-signing him to where he's not making $25 million a season. And then number two, just realize, well, for Barnes, just realize your days of shooting 15 times a game, those days are probably over.